Battles in Total War Warhammer 3 are evolving. We have added new features, improvements, and quality of life changes that will help you defeat or unleash your demons. Using all of your units to the fullest of their potential will be the key to victory. The sky's no longer the limit for flying units. Now every flying unit can be toggled to grounded or flying, opening a wide range of tactical moves. Soar over your foe with your flying horses, land, and charge their flanks for greater impact and damage. To launch your units back into the air again, they will need to be out of combat for several seconds, so plan your maneuvers carefully. Knowing how far you can push your units is important for any general. You can now see if your troops are in a braced stance by this shield icon. If your men are braced, you can be more confident that they can take the brunt of a charge with minimal casualties. We've also introduced lazy health bars, which highlight any sudden bursts of large damage. They allow greater readability of how much damage has been dealt in the last few seconds of combat, making it easier to grasp how much impact certain spells or charges have. Healing spells and abilities are now calculated percent per second rather than a flat value. This opens counters to healing such as fire, which slows down healing effects for several seconds. A well-placed spell can be the turning point of any battle. We have added a new slow-motion casting option for spells and abilities to ensure better placement for maximum effectiveness. Ticking this box means that as soon as you select a spell or ability to cast, the game will automatically enter half play speed. Once your spell is cast, you'll return to normal speed. It's important to know what all your units are doing, and in the heat of a tense battle, it's easy to forget or overlook units. We have now added an idle unit hotkey that can quickly locate any unit not in combat or following a movement order. By default, pressing backslash will cycle through every unit that is not engaged in battle, and control backslash will select all units not engaged. We have added a few features that improve readability on the battlefield. We have now got improved foliage culling distance, which allows better visibility in heavily forested areas and maps. New occlusion outlines highlight units that are behind objects with a colored outline, making it easier to see units that are partially out of sight, especially in tight streets or dense forests. Using these new mechanics will ensure your dominance on the battlefield. Keep your eyes open for tactical advantages and make sure you learn and make full use of every unit in your army. For more changes to battles, check out the Total War blog.
Well, that was pretty interesting, wasn't it? Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some more Total War Warhammer 3 news. This time going into the quality of life changes for battles and a few other things. We've of course seen the video which is played at the beginning of my video and it's playing in the background too. I wouldn't say there's too much need to actually be dissecting it as we have a far greater and lengthier post from the Creative Assembly blog, so we're going to have to start dissecting that and see what's changed and how cool this sounds, because a few things in the video did sound kind of interesting. So the blog itself is divided into two sections, Battle and UI, so let's just start discussing the Battle section. Yes, we've added a flying toggle that allows you to tell units to take off or land. Some units, such as Sky Lanterns, cannot land. Yeah, we already knew this was coming, so that's all cool. The second part is hotkeys. We've added idle unit hotkeys, allowing you to quickly locate units not currently participating in combat or reacting to a movement order. You can cycle between them or select all. Special abilities now have their own hotkeys. Guard mode, skirmish mode, and fire at will now have hotkeys. The latter two use a other unit behavior slot hotkey. Okay, so first off, hotkeying, fantastic, the more the better. This is going to be good not only for campaign players like yourself and myself, but if you take part in a lot of the multiplayer aspect, which multiplayer is getting more and more popular nowadays, especially since Creative Assembly seem to be pushing it alongside other content creators, this is going to be quite good to have more hotkeys. So I'm all for it, as long as it's done well. I believe they said it was / for something, and that's not too far from everything else, so that's pretty cool. I will send a message to the developers after I finish recording this video and make sure to ask about customization of hotkeys, because that's really important. Like, for example, I play a lot of MMOs, and you tend to want to customize quite a bit, whereas, yeah, it might not be so needed, but it would be welcome for Total War. The next section is formations. Free Kingdom's formation support allows you to drag a selection of units into a simple formation with a single motion, placing melee units ahead of ranged units. When using the set formation feature, it now generates much more usable formations for quickly sorting your army. In standard campaign field battles, an army's formation at the end of the deployment phase will be snapshotted and used as the default in the army's next battle. Okay, so the way that formations worked in Free Kingdom was actually quite good, so it's nice to see that they're still getting some cool stuff from that game, and the fact that the army will be able to remember said formation should be quite interesting, though I want them to clarify with the fact that you could lose units and change units up and so on. Does that just reset it back to 0 and so on? Sometimes these vlogs raise more questions, but when we get the content, it's sometimes after hours, so getting in contact with a developer to ask any questions is kind of difficult. I will ask the questions and hopefully I'll have an answer by the time I post. The next section itself is healing and fatigue. Healing is now applied as a percentage of max health per second rather than a flat value. Healing can now be stunted by inflicting any amount of fire damage to the target, massively slowing all healing effects for several seconds. Okay, so before we jump into the fatigue stuff, this is quite interesting. Obviously, fire damage was good against big monsters, which were not so resistant to it, but now it seems that a lot of stuff, well, practically everything is going to take a lot of fire damage. We're going to have to wait and see, obviously, because they could mean something else and they're just not being too clear here, but this does sound like you're going to want to use Lore of Fire Wizards as much as possible, and I think, well, a lot of different races and factions have access to that. Let's continue with Fatigue. Fatigue modifying abilities now take place over time instead of all at once, allowing an ability to slowly drain vigor from an enemy or restore it all at once. This is immediately obvious with the Common Foe Seeker ability on melee heroes and lords. Okay, this sounds pretty good. It's a nice change, though it's a question that I have regarding, can it be buffed up? Will it be faster to be able to replenish vigor and so on? Or is it just going to be a flat rate all the time without any sort of modifiers? We have some information regarding bracing, which goes as follows. New charge reflection for long weapon units, halberds and spears and so on, allowing them to inflict extra damage when attacking units that are charging them. Units that are braced now show a status icon in battles, allowing you to quickly tell which units are safe to take a charge. Yeah, okay, so we saw this in the video. It's good to know. It's going to be very helpful because obviously, well, cav charges can be quite devastating, though in most cases, and not trying to go against the blog or anything, when you're charging with cav, you're going to charge for the side or through the rear, so it's going to be very rare that you're going to charge directly into something which can actually meet you there on the charge. Though, mind you, I do see the worth of this when it comes to enemy AI, which will mindlessly charge into you, so yeah. Now the last section for this, which is spells, added an option to automatically take the game into slow motion mode while you aim an ability or spell. Magic resistance has been reworked into spell resistance, which only applies versus spells. This means that magic attacks are no longer often a hindrance. New Thorn spell effect including a reworked Lore of Life spell Shield of Thorns, so they haven't really shown us too much regarding that. First off, the slowing time thing is going to be great for players who want to be able to aim their spells a little better. Maybe they're not used to the whole fast-paced stuff, especially if the battle's not going their way, they might panic. So being able to slow down to be able to cast a spell, that's going to be a nice quality of life change. Obviously, this is for campaign. Don't expect this in multiplayer because, yeah. Okay, so this is a change which is going to mean that you're going to be able to take a lot more magical weapons in your armies and so on without having any issues. It's a bit of a different change. Some people are going to like it, a lot of people are going to like it. I'm not going to like it because magical attacks and magic spells are supposed to be the same thing, but then again, I'm thinking about lore and tabletop, not Total War, so when coming to a Total War aspect, it'll still be nice to be able to bring more magical weapons, so I'm not complaining whatsoever. And lastly, new effects. With the rework of the Law of Life spell, we need to see some stuff. I'm assuming that they're going to start reworking a lot of older laws, as well, the 8 main battle laws need to be changed up a little bit, I'm assuming, to bring it a little bit closer to everything that we've been shown so far. We have some UI changes, and we've got the Lord selection screen for the UI here. Unfortunately, they didn't really provide this in a high quality, so I do apologize for it being kind of low res, but I do believe that we have discussed this in the past before. I'm not too sure exactly when, as there has been a lot of Warhammer 3 news, but we know that the Lord selection is going to be a lot different now, and it looks much cooler like this. So let's move on to the information, because there's a lot more to talk about. So in regards to UI, we've got information regarding health bars, stats and unit panels, custom battles and a few other things. Let's start off with health bars. Introduction of lazy health bars. These react to incoming damage by highlighting the new value and draining to it over time, helping highlight sudden large bursts of damage. This does not change how the damage is actually applied. Unit health bars in the battle space now have ticks denoting the 75, 50, 25% thresholds, making it much easier to eyeball when a unit is about to activate a health-dependent ability. Particularly useful with the wounds ability now shed by all single entities. Okay, so the lazy health bars I like, because when you get a new spell for the first time and so on your artillery piece, you kind of want to see how much damage it does, so this you'll be able to kind of gauge it better, and it's just kind of fun. It's nothing that's really needed, but it's more of a just because it's there, you can play around with it, which is always a nice quality of life thing. The health bar ticks, that's always good for, well, pretty much just the wounds thing, though some people do like to have extra stuff just to let you know where you are in terms of HP for certain units, so you can gauge if it's going to break or not. So yeah, that's perfectly fine, and I think it's a nice addition. Now let's move on to stats and unit panels. You can now see the entity mass stat in the entity size tooltip. Abilities, attributes, and resistances can now be expanded into a more readable list in the unit info panel. 3-tier unit system is now visible on the unit info panel, allowing quick eyeballing of relative unit quality. Okay, this all sounds pretty good. I'm assuming, well, mass, I guess, is going to help when you're deciding to charge when it comes to chariots and so on. I'm never really too curious about it, though I could be wrong and some people could be really into it. Custom battles sounds interesting. Some factions have been removed from custom battles / quick battles and replaced by having you pick your race and then selecting your color profile from a selection of notable factions within a race. So what I'm getting from this is you're getting to pick your faction colors, but there's no chance in hell for an army painter. Yeah, we kind of expected this, but at least you're going to be able to play around with colors though. Given the fact that a lot of factions do have a lot of minor factions, hopefully they mean every single minor faction, and that way you can then decide, like for example the dwarves you want to play as a red faction or purple or whatever. Next section, custom battle maps can now be searched and filtered. You can also tag favorite maps to be moved to the top of the list. This is fantastic. I like to use custom battles a lot, especially when playing with some friends or just testing out stuff when we get access to new DLCs. This is a good thing, especially for multiplayer people who have certain maps that they use for tournaments and so on. I imagine that this is just going to make things a lot easier for people. You can now change your unit size setting in the custom battle lobby instead of having to globally set it in your options. That's also quite good, depending on people's machines and what they want to use. When it comes to testing stuff just for fun, or when I've just started a new faction, if I try them out on, say for example, a standard unit size before moving on to the larger ones, just to, well, work around and see how they work. Improved army preset saving with filtering, searching, and being able to view only specific races and battle types. This should be quite interesting. Again, this is more for custom battles and so on. Well, it is for custom battles, but it's still quite cool. Hopefully this means that Creative Assembly are going to make more of an effort with the multiplayer scene. And lastly, 2 more sections. We've added a new unit browser as a sister page to the spell browser, allowing you to peruse the full rosters at any point. This is going to be quite useful again for multiplayer. And the last point is, as you've seen in some of our posts, there's also been a general overhaul of the UI for various menus, from new games to campaign and custom battles, info screens and profiles. Yeah, we've already seen a decent amount of changes when it comes to this because myself, other content creators and even Creative Assembly have been showcasing them bit by bit, and this is cool. This is showing some quality of life changes which are quite needed. Hopefully this isn't anything because we've right now just seen UI and battle. Hopefully there's going to be a bunch of campaign quality of life changes. That would be kind of fun to explore. But the main thing to take from here is it sounds promising, or at least it does to me. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's have a bit of a discussion. I'm not so well versed when it comes to multiplayer and custom battles as I would be. I'm more of a campaign and lore aspect, battles type. So if you're more well versed in multiplayer, it would be great to have your input. It would actually be very helpful on my part. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our fame level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our king level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.